There's a couple, the one that started, the one in Napa, Sonoma, and then the one that started in Lower Lake last week.
Yeah, I saw that the guy was weed eating.
Then the guy in Sonoma had a big lawnmower and did it at the heat of the day and
Oh.
caused a spark and went up. Had a metal blade or hit a rock or something. And
There he is.
That's exactly what the guy in Lower Lake was.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay, doing good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to meet the team. Special.
Okay.
Test, test. Test, test.
would like to call the City of Clear Lake Planning Commission meeting to order. This is July 9th at 6 p.m. Thank you all for viewing tonight's Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at the City Council Chambers on Tuesday, July 9th, 2024 at 6 p.m. As a reminder, if you are participating via Zoom, please put yourself on mute unless you are speaking. We are currently live streaming this meeting on the city's YouTube channel and the Lake County PEG TV live stream YouTube channel. To begin with, may I please have a roll call?
Commissioner Inglis,
I'm here.
Commissioner Smalley,
Here.
Vice Chair Stewart,
Present.
and Chair Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Coker is absent.
Thank you. All right, at this time, if those present will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Vice Chair Stewart, if you would please lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we will adopt our agenda. I will ask the city manager or Planner Roberts if there are any changes to the agenda.
No changes, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move we adopt the agenda as is.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll go to public comment. Any member of the public can address the Planning Commission on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the commission or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The commission cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on the next available agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Any public comments in the chambers? Sir, if you'd please come forward. Is this your written comment? Okay. Yes, please come forward and state your name and where you live.
15839 42nd Avenue, Clear Lake, California. I've been here 2 times before. I have 2 quick things, hopefully. The first one when I was here was about an intersection at Moss and 40th in the city, and it was a misunderstanding as who was responsible for that intersection. That was Caltrans, not the city. Looking at the map that you have of the city, that is the city's responsibility. I would like to know when, and if you're not going to give me that answer now, but that intersection is horrible. You have a few thousand people who live up there in the Highlands who have to cross that intersection every day, and I've had to redo my front end a couple of times because of it. There's no logical reason why that thing can't be repaired and taken and made right, because it's right off 53, all the garbage trucks, all that stuff go through there. Added to that, you got 40th to Davis, 6 blocks. And that was not done. You did everything down. You did build a new road on dam roads, so on and so forth. Didn't touch that. This next rainy season, it's going to be a quagmire. My second subject, if I can get time to finish that off, is I think the city attorney should address the issue that's going to be affecting everybody as far as paying insurance and tax dollars here in the city. As you know, insurance companies are sending cancellation notices to a lot of us, and the problem I'm having with it is that they're lying on those forms. They have the right to cancel anybody want to, but when they lie about the description of the property by saying that I live on steep hills, there's no access, it's quick to get fire out there, and they put this on the form. The problem with that, going to my next insurance carrier, I now have to reprove that my property is safe. You got a good fire department here that gets there in no time at all. Your roads are being maintained most of the time, except for the ones I'm complaining about. And, your code stays on top of you for weed abatement. I feel if you get a city attorney, somebody should write them a letter, let them know they should have better proof than what they're having, because they're dispersing us as taxpayers and residents of this area. And it's gonna cost you guys tax dollars in the future, because when these people can't get new insurance because they don't have the money to do it, that's people that you're gonna have, the properties are gonna fall in default. That's all I have.
Thank you. So as far as the roads and the streets, that doesn't fall under the purview of the Planning Commission. You would want to speak with our Director of Public Works, Adeline Leba. She is the one that you would talk to regarding that, or Tristan. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I can, if you want, I mean, I can give a little bit of information
Okay,
now.
that'd be great.
So historically, Caltrans actually did maintain that area. You'll recall a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe now, where they did the west side of the intersection. And they actually told us that they were going to do that side. And then they came back later and said, well, we ran this through engineering and it's not our responsibility, it's your responsibility. So it hadn't been in our plans to do that because of the history, but all that being said, it is in very bad shape and needs some attention. So we recently updated, because of the landfill being at the end of a number of city streets, we've historically had an agreement with the county, who owns and operates the landfill, to have them share the cost of maintaining that section of 40th and Moss and Davis. So our Public Works Director and the team has been working on that. We recently updated that agreement with them, and we're in the process of doing the design work for a project not only to include that part of the intersection, but also some additional work to Moss and Davis.
Can I add one thing into that? I understand what you're saying. You guys built them a road from Moss all the way up to the jungle. We built it all the way up. You shouldn't be quivering at all about that intersection.
They aren't quibbling. They're going to pay their share. But
All right.
Thank you. All right, have a good evening. Okay. Anyone else have anything on public comment in the chambers? No? Okay. Madam Clerk, anyone on Zoom?
There are no comments on the Zoom, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Then I will close public comment. Okay, we have no consent items, so we will skip to our business items. Okay. Under public hearing, item number 1. The Planning Commission is being asked to consider amendments to a previously approved planning entitlements for a commercial cannabis operation located at 2160 Augulin Canyon Road, Clear Lake, California, further described as APN number 010-040-21. And if staff could please provide a staff report.
Of course, let me get my PowerPoint up. Okay, so we're here today for Augulin Estates Holdings for amendments to an approved entitlements. It's located at 2160 Old Highway 53, further described as parcel number 010-044-21. This is just kind of an oversight, to kind of show a general site location. You got, the X represents the project site itself. You can see the intersection of 53 and Augulin Canyon Road. So a bit of project history and discussion. So project background. In December 2020, the applicant submitted the conditional use permits to develop the 9.56 acre parcel for a commercial cannabis operation, which included manufacturing, retail delivery, distribution, cultivation / processing, and a nursery. So the initial project consisted in the development of a 33,600 square foot building for cannabis activities, a 5,000 square foot office building, and 5 75 by 25 greenhouses and 46 parking spaces, and then general site improvements, like driveway and other general improvements. So for PC approval, after completion of the environmental analysis, which included circulation of the initial study and including the square footages that were just referenced, the applicant submitted a revised project description for a new 5,000 square foot building, the remodel of an existing 900 square foot building, and 8 parking spaces. And then ultimately, this was approved by the Planning Commission in December of 2022. So proposed amendments, essentially the applicant's requesting amendments to the approved commercial cannabis operation. The revised project will remain consistent with the approved conditional use permits and will continue to adhere to the adopted conditions of approval and mitigation measures. So the revised project includes the development of a new 32,500 square foot building, which is referenced as Building A, and a new 5,000 square foot building, which is known as Building B. So essentially, Building A of the square footage, the 23,500 square feet for would be used for cannabis processing and manufacturing, and 9,000 square feet for indoor cannabis cultivation and nursery. For Building B, there'd be 3,000 square feet of cannabis processing and manufacturing and approximately 2,000 square feet of cannabis retail delivery, offices, and distribution. The new buildings would be located approximately plus or minus 220 feet south of Ogden Canyon Road in the eastern portion of the project site. The hours of operation would be Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And it will be accessed by a new driveway, and there'll be approximately 40 parking spaces. So this is just an overview of the site plan. You can see I added A and B for the reference, so you can see which the buildings are. And this is what's existing to what's being proposed. And it's just more of a zoomed in version of the site plan. So the environmental analysis. So staff did an environmental analysis, which was also circulated April 7th through May 13th of 2022, and it included the original project submittal of the 33,600 square foot building, the 5,000 square foot building, and the 5 greenhouses that are 75 by 25 each. And of course, the general site improvements, which is parking, driveway, and other matters. So when referring to CEQA analysis versus the proposed amendments, the CEQA that was done was much greater than the with the original project versus what was approved and the proposed amendments. So with that, the mitigation measures and the CEQA that was done, it doesn't require recirculation of a CEQA document per the CEQA guidelines section 15162, which is pursuant to the section 15162, when a previous environmental review for a project has been prepared and approved, essentially like a subsequent or an amendment environmental analysis isn't needed, as it's not going to have any more impacts that were already analyzed. All the potential impacts have already been mitigated with the incorporated and adopted mitigation measures. So our options are to move to adopt the resolution PC 2024-01, or you can move to deny the resolution PC 2024-01, or provide alternate direction to staff. And that concludes my brief summary. The applicant, Brian Pensack, is here, as well as with his environmental consultant, Richard Knoll, here, if you have any additional questions.
Great. I'm going to ask each commissioner if they have questions, and then we'll go to our applicant and see if so. Commissioner Inglis, do you have any questions of staff at this time?
None at this time. Staff answered them.
Thank you. Commissioner Smalley, do you have any questions of staff at this time?
I do have a couple of questions. So I see here between building B and A, there's handicap parking spots. Is there a plan for a circulation path from those parking spots to these buildings? One, and two, I do see that there's flood zone stuff in here, and are we positive these buildings are out of the flood zone?
For the ADA requirements, there are conditions of approval in place where they'll have to have and adhere to all routes of path and ADA requirements. I believe that greater than plus or minus 220 feet should be out of the flood zone. If not, they'll have to adhere to the FEMA requirements and get the elevation certificates if necessary.
Thank you. Commissioner Stewart, do you have any questions of staff at this time?
I do. So it, as near as I can recall, and from looking at the documents presented, the use permit that was previously approved was for a quite a bit smaller version of what we're looking at now. My primary concern here is not size of the buildings or any of that stuff. My concern is I'm looking at the analysis that was done for the one that was actually approved. And it was estimated to use 102,200 gallons of water per year. My primary question is, what's the projected usage of this use? Because it sounds to me like we're going to have, while not substantially greater cultivation area, it does sound like the cultivation area in this use is higher than it was in the previously approved use permit. And as far as I know, because the use permit wasn't acted upon within a year, that use permit actually expired. Is that correct, staff?
Well, there's a few questions there. I guess I'll start with the last one. So,
Okay.
You could argue that the use permit expired. I mean, use permits, the way we look at it, they go with the property. With cannabis, it's a little bit different because the use permit requires that the developer enter into a development agreement with the city that covers various other things. And those could expire. But, you know, we've talked to the council about this a number of times and a number of the applicants, and depending on the situation, we have agreed to extend those kind of like on a year-to-year basis. You know, there's been market conditions and other things. Some folks have had various other challenges. This is one of those cases where we've agreed to extend that beyond the initial year. But we are kind of continually reviewing those, and there are some that have been approved by the commission and we consider expired. This is not one of them. I guess back to the water usage, I did want to clarify one point. So the use permit that was approved by the commission in I guess 2022 or 2022, the cultivation part was withdrawn from the application at the commission hearing, but the environmental analysis that was done at the time still included the full amount of cultivation, the water analysis, all of that stuff. It was approved by the commission. The permit just didn't include that. So that's why we're bringing this back, and it's a little bit unusual in the sense that the environmental analysis includes what's now being proposed, but they still have to have the permit conditions updated to recognize the change in square footage and the change in use, because cultivation wasn't even included in that use permit that was approved, although the cultivation was analyzed in the CEQA document. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. However, my concern is that the final approval that the Planning Commission gave was based on no cultivation and a lower use of water, perhaps in some commissioners' minds, even though the CEQA said that, you know, the 520,000 gallons or whatever it was per year was not going to be an issue. I feel that a lot of the community and some of the commissioners did feel that it was an issue and that had the cultivation part of it been included at that time, the approval may not have been granted. So at this point, we haven't heard from any of the surrounding folks about the water issues, but I see we have one of their advocates in the audience, so before any decisions made, I assume we'll hear from the public.
Thank you. And my comments are, I know, there was some discrepancy in one place. It said 37 parking spaces, another it said 40. And based on my calculations, on our guides, 44 would be needed. And my concern there would be if the property were sold at a later time to someone that had retail, that we met our parking requirements for that. So I believe, based on my calculations, that 44 parking spaces would be needed. So those were my comments on that. I guess I am assuming, and that I'm using that lightly, I'm sure that the applicant will clarify this for us. Again, it's also water use questions. The first that we approved, there were 5 very large greenhouses. And in my mind, thinking that indoor cultivation might use less water than greenhouses, but I'm hoping that the applicants will clarify that for us. So anyway, that is my comments. And at this time, I'll open up for public comment. Is there anyone in the chambers that wishes to speak on this item? Okay. Please come to the podium and state your name and where you live.
Good evening. Is that on? Okay. My name is Richard Knoll. I'm a planning consultant located 825 South Main Street in Lakeport. And I'm representing the applicant tonight in terms of a presentation to the Planning Commission. And I do want to thank staff for their assistance and recommendation to the commission, and also thank the commission for your consideration of this revised project. And before I go much further, I also want to recognize and introduce Brian Pensack and Garrett Burdick, who are the applicants. They've been involved with this project from the very beginning, going back to year 2020, and actually before. So this is actually, as you've heard, the third submittal for this project, and I think that reflects the changing market conditions of this industry, and the fact that this project is very similar in size and scope to what was originally proposed. If I haven't done the math, but I actually believe that the proposed cultivation area is smaller than what was originally proposed with the first project. But as stated, the project that was approved by the Planning Commission did not include any cultivation at all. But obviously, the proposal now is to go back to that as an indoor project. I have not looked at the water usage information, but I will tell you that there's been a lot of detail and technical information submitted to the city, and it was analyzed as part of the sequential study that was circulated to the clearinghouse back in 2022, with a finding that there was less than significant impact, in that particular environmental category. this project, as indicated, is similar to what was originally proposed. I did want to mention, really the volume of technical detail that has been submitted to the city, including cultural resources report, biological report, groundwater hydrology analysis, water availability report, site plans, project description. I think you've got the updated site plans in your packet along with the updated project description. So, you know, given the fact that that information has been provided to the city, we feel confident that it's a project that will benefit the community, and we hope that we have your support. At this point, I'm available for any questions that you have. Obviously, if something comes up, we're here to respond if need be. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public in the chamber that would like to speak?
Thank you. My name is Dave Hughes, 2705 Old Highway 53, which is downstream from the 2160 Arguelland Canyon Road. In fact, we're just across Highway 53 from the Arguelland Canyon Road area. I'm here representing roughly 30 property owners that are in the Burns Valley watershed and have wells. I know there's information that shows there's something like 85 wells in that area. They're mostly shallow. My well is 70 feet, produces 5 gallons a minute. And I hear I could go deeper and get more gallons per minute, but I'd also be dealing with more minerals and those sorts of things. So at this point, I've never considered going deeper. Our main concern is the cumulative impact on the water, water quality and the aquifer itself. There are a number of grows outside of the city limits in that watershed. In fact, there was an application to grow cannabis on the adjoining parcel to this one, which is in the county. It was approved by the Planning Commission. The property owners appealed that to the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors determined that because of the issues and the lack of information, let's say, that an EIR should be required. And I'm going to actually have the findings here, and I wanted to quote a couple of things from the findings. And sitting back there, I messed up my stack. Basically, and I want to, it's been mentioned, but there was no, although the use permit was granted, it was not granted to allow any growing. So under the findings of facts on our appeal next door, we had an engineer, a Matthew Earnshaw, a certified hydrogeologist with EBA Engineering, Hydrology and Water Resource Consultants. He provided testimony at that hearing, and basically I want to read what was said. Mr. Earnshaw testified the project's applicant's geology is wrong as to the aquifer. The evaluation of cumulative impacts to nearby wells is not adequately addressed, and the pump testing isn't adequate. That's referring to the Dodd report. Now, this is on the one next door, but I'm figuring that downstream next door should be relevant. She did the same study for 2160 as she did for the one next door. Mr. Earnshaw stated that a potential issue existed in regard to the evaluation of this project in terms of cumulative impacts. That's the main thing. given the other cannabis cultivation sites in the area. Mr. Earnshaw stated that the evaluation of cumulative impacts conducted on behalf of the project applicant did not consider the proposed project along with the groundwater demands of nearby projects and other reasonably foreseeable projects. That has to be considered under CEQA, foreseeable projects. In the area that could contribute cumulative impacts similar to those of the project. Mr. Earnshaw stated that further aquifer testing was needed given the potential impacts to nearby wells. Mr. Earnshaw noted that long-duration pumping tests with corresponding groundwater elevation measurements did not appear to have been performed. So that was his comments. And basically, the Board of Supervisors finds, based on the evidence and facts presented in this matter, that substantial evidence supports a fair argument that the project may have a significant effect on the environment. Therefore, an environmental impact report is necessary. And I guess that's kind of what I'm looking for here. I don't think there's been adequate water testing, study. Again, our engineer that we hired said the information provided wasn't adequate. Again, that doesn't apply necessarily specifically to this piece, but it's next door, and I think it's very relevant. Some of the information used, example, the groundwater basin management plan goes back to 2006. That's some of the information that she used to provide her information. That's 18 years ago. So again, we have shallow wells, we have an aquifer that's fragile, and we don't think it's been adequately addressed. Another part of the report that was provided by their consultant, under limitations, the study of groundwater hydrology is very complex and often relies on limited data, especially in rural areas. Recommendations and conclusions provided herein are based on professional judgment made using information of groundwater systems and geology in Lake County, which is limited and allows only for a general assessment of groundwater aquifer conditions to recharge. So again, we would like to see a more focused study on the water and the impact that this will have, the cumulative impact it'll have on our wells, taking into consideration the existing grows and the foreseeable future grows. So we are concerned about water, and I'll leave it at that. Okay, I'll leave it.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Is there anyone else in the chambers that would like to comment? Not at this time. Okay. Madam Clerk, is there anyone on Zoom?
There are no comments on the Zoom, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And has staff received any emails or written comments regarding this item?
No, I have not.
Thank you. All right. Okay, thank you. I will close public comment on this item. I'll now ask each commissioner if they have any further comments for deliberation on this item.
This might be for you, Alan. Is there any impact on that? We approved a project for building some over there, and that's kind of in that same watershed. So what is the combined impact of that? Has that been considered?
Well,
Or am I just, I may be off base on that. I'm not a hydrologist.
yeah, so I mean, Mr. Hughes is talking about a somewhat similar project in the same area. I mean, we didn't ask the applicant to bring the hydrologist back in. I actually didn't ask our attorney to attend, which may have been helpful, but the commission, you have to make the determination under CEQA that there's a significant impact with this proposed project, which was not included in the original environmental document. You don't have the option otherwise to just say, oh, now we want to do an EIR. you have an approved environmental document, and you have a proposed project that analyzes the water impacts of a larger project than what's being proposed tonight. And so, I don't know how far down this road you want to go. I mean, I would argue that you don't really have a lot of options in arguing the hydrology at this point, because there was a lot of discussions, this came forward along with some other project in the midst of a drought, and there was a lot of concerns about it. And you may recall, the information identified, kind of these sort of two different levels of aquifers. Most of the wells that are of concern in the Burns Valley area are shallower ones that are in the shallower aquifer, and some of the wells over here much deeper. These are 200-foot wells and that type of thing, which get down into the larger aquifer. And the analysis that was part of the environmental document that was approved indicated that there was an enormous amount of water availability in that aquifer. So unless the commission has some additional information that there are substantial changes with this project, and there's a very increased impact as proposed, you don't have the option of like.
You have any additional questions? Okay. Commissioner Smalley, do you have any questions at this time?
No, I don't have any questions now.
Commissioner Stewart?
I would still like to know, with the amount of cultivation area that we're looking at tonight, what is the proposed amount of water that we're going to be using? Is it going to be the same as what was the original 561,000 gallons a year? Is it going to be more, maybe less? What's it going to be? So far, I haven't heard an answer to that.
Well, if you're looking at me, I don't know if I can answer it.
Okay, well,
we're judging.
we have the applicants here and Mr.
Yeah.
Knowles here. Perhaps he can answer that.
We're
for
judging
us.
it based on the size of the growing area being smaller, but I don't know if the applicants can address anything. I mean, I don't know if would be any change other than that.
There have been, Richard Knoll again, there have been several hydrology technical memorandums submitted and then updated for this project. And I just saw the figure. It has not been recalculated. The maximum, I guess, potential use of water has not been recalculated for this particular project, because I believe it actually would be less than what was indicated or provided to the city initially. And if I'm not mistaken, and I'm looking for it, so bear with me, that number is 561,000 gallons per year.
That's correct. That's what it said. Yeah.
That's the figure. And I just saw it. I apologize for not being able to pull it up, but it's in my file here. But what I really wanted to say and just reiterate what was just said by the city manager. And I'll read to you from a technical memorandum that was written by the project's hydrologist, Dr. Angie Dodd from North Point Consulting Group in Arcata, that a groundwater and this is in a technical memorandum dated March 7th, 2022, in just the first paragraph, a groundwater hydrology technical memorandum was prepared for 2160 Augulin Canyon Road. dated December 23rd, 2021, and submitted to the City of Clear Lake Planning Department. The technical memorandum addressed groundwater recharge and cumulative impacts and concluded that the project's water use would likely not have a cumulative impact on the surrounding area for the following reasons. Number one, the cannabis demand is only 0.12% of the usable storage capacity of the Burns Valley groundwater basin. And number two, that there is sufficient recharge over the project's recharge area to meet the project's demand during both average and dry years. So that is coming from an expert in the field, in the area of groundwater hydrology. So it supports the findings, the CEQA findings that have been made on this project, that there is adequate capacity and recharge associated with this project.
Vice Chair Stewart, did that answer your question?
Well, sort of. It kind of does bring up a couple of more questions in my mind, though, before we take a vote on this, and that is that in my mind, the initial approval that we gave, it was detailed in there that the expected usage was not going to exceed 561,000 gallons a year. I believe there was also something in there about having a water meter on the well, and that somebody was to monitor their water usage. And I guess basically what I'm saying at this point is, okay, we approved it up to 561,000 gallons, but I want some monitoring that's going to show that they're not using more than that. Especially if we had the monitoring thing in there with the meter before.
So Senior Planner Roberts will double check. I think that did happen. I think it was on a different project than this one, but we'll double check the monitoring part.
There's a lot of stuff here, and I didn't have time to mess through all of it today because I only found out about the meeting today. However, it seemed to me that I saw that somewhere in the stuff I was looking at just today. So I want to confirm whether we have that option or not.
The applicant wanted to address the water usage thing. If the chair's okay.
Yeah, if you'll come
Oh.
forward and.
Commissioner Stewart, it does have the requirement in there already, so that.
Thank you, Alan.
Okay.
My name is Brian Pensack. I'm one of the principals of the project, and I just spoke to our cultivator to get an answer for you. And he says the water usage is about 50% less than what was the outdoor greenhouses that were initially proposed. So because of the recirculation, he gave me a lot of technical reasons, but the bottom line was about 50%.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Stewart, I would add, I mean, I probably shouldn't even say this, but I just did a back of the envelope analysis based on some stuff right here. So if you take the 561,000 gallons, that was with the amendments like pulling out the cultivation, it was estimated that that would reduce the gallons per year to 102,200 gallons, right? So if we were to assume, and I don't know if this is a fair assumption, that delta of 550 or 458,000 gallons was all related to the cultivation, and then we took that to a gallons per square foot per year, it would be roughly 30 gallons per square foot. So the cultivation that was originally analyzed was 15,000 square feet. Now they're proposing 9,000 square feet. Based on that calculation, you go from down to 275,000 gallons essentially. So.
I appreciate the fact.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, actually, I'm sorry, the public comment is closed. They were specifically answering questions that one of our planning commissioners had. Okay. Public comment is closed, Mr. Hughes. It's closed. It's okay. Mr. Smalley, you had, okay, all right, thank you. You were also given over your time limit, so public comment is closed. Okay. If there's no more deliberation, I will take a motion on item number 1.
I move that we adopt resolution PC 2024-01.
And do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Commissioner English and a second by Commissioner Smalley. May I please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Smalley,
Aye.
Commissioner Inglis,
Aye.
Vice Chair Stewart,
Aye.
and Chair Williams.
Aye. Yep. Okay. All right. Okay. City Manager Flora, I actually skipped an item under business, which was to reselect a new chair and vice chair. Should I finish the public hearing and then go back to that?
That's fine. If that's,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Okay. We will move on to item number 2. The Planning Commission is being asked to consider conditional use permit. Thank you. CUP 2024-01 and corresponding environmental filings. Categorical exemption CE 2024-03 to allow live music and disc jockey entertainment within the Monterey Mexican Grill and Bar located at 15176 Lakeshore Drive in Clear Lake. Staff, can I please have a report?
Oops, thank you. Is applying for live music in addition to their existing operation. Can you put it up? We're waiting on a slide here so you can have a visual here of what that looks like. But it's going to include live music, which is stage with dancing and also disc jockey all in the same space, essentially. The space is broken down into 2 areas. As you can see on the drawing, there's the dance floor or at the top. That is the actual restaurant bar. And then where you see the dance floor at the bottom with the DJ stage, that is the actual restaurant. There's a total occupancy of 75 for the restaurant side and 145 for the bar side at the top. On the bar side, they're also going to be adding VIP tables to the live music. And that, I believe, is only during the live music, but the applicant can, confirm that. And so, they'll be setting up and taking down those VIP tables and seating. So it is a currently operating restaurant. Now, in our zoning ordinance, it doesn't say specifically that live music is allowed, but there is discretion from staff and city manager because it is a similar use to such as like a special events or a gathering. So we thought this was, it was appropriate to take it before the Planning Commission for a hearing. So the operating hours would be from 9 to 2 a.m. So it would be outside of the actual operation of the restaurant, but they are going to be serving food during that time. And it is outside of the operation of most of the other tenants and businesses there. So there'll be minimum overlap of parking and activity there. So it's kind of outside of those, operational hours with Adventists, I believe is there, and there's also another restaurant, clothing store and grocery store there in that area. But within 300 feet of the actual tenant space here, there's approximately 105 spaces total in the parking. And I actually counted this. There's about 300 spaces. So that should be ample parking for this particular activity. We did do the RFR. There are some comments that came back from fire. They were, concerned, well, not concerned, they were confirming the occupancy with the applicant. There are some minor changes or conformance things they need to do prior to operation. And these are all addressed in the conditions of approval, that they take care of these prior to having the actual live music. Another thing was with the health department. There's some issues there with making sure that if the live music comes in, that they address food handling and all that kind of stuff. So that's all part of the conditions of approval for the live music. They had temporary use permits in the past. Staff did not, and that was sent out for our RFR, but there were no comments back with regard to any concerns from the public or neighbors. So we thought that was, appropriate to go ahead then, to present this to the Planning Commission, as, there were really no adverse comments in the past on the temporary use permits for this particular type of use. So that's kind of the gist of the presentation. If there's any questions on, the application, staff is ready to answer. All right,
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to add one little bit finer point to what Associate Planner Taylor is mentioning. So we had done temporary use permits for a little while, which is our practice in the zoning code for sort of less frequent things of this type. But the applicant did those and wanted to be able to do this a little bit more frequently. And that was kind of the threshold where we thought it rose to the level of needing a public hearing and come before the commission. So I just wanted to kind of underline that point. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'll ask each commissioner if they have questions of staff. Commissioner Inglis?
Yeah, I have a few. Did anybody involved with this do any sound tests to see? Because there are some houses that are kind of behind that. It's a ways, but what kind of sound we'd be cranking out of there and what that effect would be?
No,
Or from the past when they had the temporary use?
not to staff's knowledge that there were any sound tests at the property lines.
Well,
But
I mean, so
There were no complaints.
the police department has received 3 complaints from events. I know Chair Williams checked with Chief Hobbs about this today, but since you asked the question, we'll just get into it. So the police department did respond. There were 2 of those where they were below the noise levels that are allowed. There was one time where they were above those noise levels and they were instructed that they needed to reduce the volume, which they did.
I'm probably gonna be able to hear it from my house,
Yeah.
but that's all right. When I hear it, I'm gonna go get me some tacos.
And so so that takes care of the complaints. Were there any other like criminal violations or any rowdy, looking for stuff that might set up a warning?
Not to our knowledge.
knowledge.
Yeah.
How easy would this CUP be to revoke, and what kind of conditions would lead to that?
Okay, so there are conditions. I think it's 36 and 37. Commissioner Inglis is stealing all your questions, Chair Williams. I hope you don't mind.
Oh.
No, it's fine.
Sorry about that. I didn't know.
It's something that we're obviously concerned about too. So 36 and 37, I believe in the permit conditions identify that if there are issues with violations of the conditions, that the permit can be revoked. So it has to be revoked by you if you approve it as the approving body. So, if the police department gets repeated complaints, or we get, complaints to the city hall side, and it gets to a level where they're not responding and dealing with the complaints, and it's a persistent thing, then staff would bring it back to the commission and recommend revocation.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna let you take care of the
Okay,
next one.
that's all good. Commissioner Smalley, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Vice Chair Stewart?
I'm curious if this location is the spot formerly known as Tequila's. I kind of thought maybe it was. Yeah, other than the stuff already covered, I don't see any problem whatsoever with this. So
Okay, thank you. I spoke with our police chief earlier today because I did have some concerns, one of which was the noise level and asking if there had been problems in the past. And he, iterated that the max DBA is 55, and the one time it was over, it was only 57. So, and they turned it down. So two over, I mean, compared to what it could be, really isn't level enough to worry about, I don't think. One question that I did have was on the security, and I clarified that with Chief, was he is recommending 1 per 50. And so he felt that at a level of 210, that 5 security would be needed. And that if we do approve this, I would like to add that the PD be notified of who the security company is and that they're licensed, and that PD has their phone number ahead of time with the dates, just so that they're kept in the loop, and they know, who they're working with. That was something that the chief thought was very important there as well. And then I do have a couple of questions for the applicant. One of which, will security be counting as people enter to make sure that we don't go over our max capacity of the 210, which I'm assuming is 210 because it's 220 and there's going to be 10 employees, so we don't want to go over that. And then there was a conflict. In one place it said no one under 21, and in another place it said it would be mixed and that there would be bracelets being used to indicate 21. So I wanted clarification on that. And then I know that the employees all have to get their health certificates and the fire department's findings on the Ansel serviced and the hood cleaned before that could happen. So if you can answer those, I would appreciate it.
My name is Maria Onate. My address is 5575 Old Highway. And first of all, what was the first question? Okay, security. So what we do with the bracelets, and the bracelet that has the counts 0 to 150. So or whatever 210. So we put to every person, and we ID. So 21 and over. So no underages. Because of our license also. The security. So we have 3 agencies that we are working. There is 2 in Ukiah and 1 on Colusa. And I already give you the name, the company, and the insurances, and they have everything with that. So we have one of my employees. They just search all over. We don't want nothing. We want everything to be smooth. Everybody just to enjoy their time. So we're trying to put all the everything together to make this safety for public and for us also. And so keep doing this. So we have bracelets, ID check, wands, where else? Garbage. All the employees are taking bottles. We will try not to serve bottles, cans, and everything gonna be plastic for safety reasons. Any other question?
Questions for the applicant? Not at this time? Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay. I don't see that we have anyone else in the room. Madam Clerk, is there anyone on Zoom?
There are no comments on the Zoom, Madam Chair.
And did we receive any last minute letters or emails?
I don't believe so.
No last minute emails or letters or phone calls.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. I will close public comment on that. Okay, I will now, we've already asked, so I will take a motion on item number 2.
I move we pass and adopt resolution PC 2024-02.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve item number 2 on the agenda, which is the conditional use permit, CUP 2024-01, and the corresponding environmental filing. Categorical exemption, CE 2024-03. Okay, may I please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Smalley, Commissioner Inglis,
Aye.
Vice Chair Stewart, and Chair Williams.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Now I will
I'm
go.
allowed to wish you success with this.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy success, quiet, peaceful times for everybody.
Yes. Thank you. And now I'll go back. I accidentally skipped our business item, which was to appoint a new chair and vice chair for the upcoming year. So do I have a motion for a new chair?
I make a motion that Fawn Williams be our chair for the upcoming year.
Second.
You good with?
If you are good with it.
I'm fine with it as long as everyone else is. All right. Okay. All right. Do we need to do a roll call or just all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. Do we have anyone that would like to volunteer as vice chair or make a motion for a vice chair?
You got 3 options.
Okay.
I make a motion that it not be me.
Okay.
It's time for
Jack, you-
guys.
Okay. Okay. I would like to nominate Jack Smalley as vice chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I will remain chair and Commissioner Smalley will be vice chair at our next meeting. So let's see, where are we here? Oh, I gotta find my good. Myself confused. Oh gosh, sorry. All right. That concludes our public hearing section. So we will go to city manager and staff and commissioner reports. City Manager Flora, do you have a report?
Yeah, I'll just share just a few things. One, we have changed a little bit organizationally within the department, primarily on the building side, where we have some new staff in place where we had contracted out plan review and building inspection services, and now that's being handled in-house. So we're hoping that improves some of our turnaround times and just responsiveness and customer service with the public. So the airport redevelopment project, we have been working on kind of getting things in place to do the environmental review for that for a while, much longer than we're planning for various reasons. But the notice of preparation of the environmental impact report went out on Friday. And so this is the public comment period on, initial comments on potential environmental impacts before we start preparing the draft EIR. Although this isn't required, what we thought would be a good idea is to actually have They're generally called a scoping meeting, but we decided to actually kind of do it as actual public hearing before the planning commission. And so at the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting on the 23rd of this month is when we would like to have that. So the commission will get kind of a presentation on the initial project plans that the city's put together, and then the public can come and share their comments on what they like or don't like. And then after that, actually August 8th, a little bit after that, is the close of that initial public comment period, and we'll begin preparing the draft environmental impact report. And then, of course, there'll be more public input once that happens, and that would come back to the commission later on in the year. So a lot of work there, but we're excited to see it crawling along. And then the only other thing I just wanted to give a little bit of an update on, I mean, we still have a number of projects moving forward. Most of them have been slowed by the Koi Nation. You're familiar with a few of those projects. The 18th Avenue and Hotel project, which was approved, we won in the Superior Court. The Koi appealed that to the state appellate court. We're going through that process now. We're expecting actual hearing on that case, hopefully in the next couple of months. The briefing period from them, then our reply brief, and then they get a reply brief that just was submitted this week. And so that's moving along, but that's definitely stalled that project out. Just the road project, we have that contracted and contractor in place, and cost increases are costing the city $36,000 a month, and it's been over a year already. And then the Burns Valley Sports Complex project will actually be going to Superior Court for trial next Friday. So that happens. And then there was a third lawsuit that was filed recently by the Koi on actually one of our road repaving projects, which, isn't having any impacts on tribal resources, of course. So, the kind of same practices are continuing. We're working through it the best we can and trying to keep things moving, but also confident that here soon we're going to have several more legal victories behind us, showing that, we are actually doing the right thing here. So with that rosy news, that's my report.
Thank you.
Quick question, Alan. Has there been any update on the ELM project there by the youth center?
Yes. Well, I mean, that's fully approved at this point, because that the Bureau of Indian Affairs put that property into trust. And so, there's no regulatory oversight by the city. Now, we have an excellent working relationship with the Elam Indian Colony, and we did, you may have seen some stuff in the news, we did negotiate an agreement with them that they are actually submitting all their plans to us for comment, and working through all that. So they're in the design process now. They are hoping to break ground sometime, I think, this fall. But yeah, I mean, they're moving along.
I did notice the old thing that we approved over at JNL Market. They removed the big trees on that lot last week or the week before. So I'm thinking they're going to be breaking ground on that pretty soon.
Yeah, I don't know if Mike or Mark have any updates. I mean, that's been, the plans have been approved for quite a while. I think they've been getting bids on the project, and it's been a little slower than they anticipated, but I'm expecting it to start here pretty soon.
I was speaking with the applicant a couple weeks ago, so they did send it out for bid, and they're getting a couple more bids. Like City Manager Flora was saying, I spoke with a couple of the contractors that came in because they want to get a better idea of the overall project and what it entails before they would submit their paperwork to them. But I know the applicants want to break ground as soon as possible, and like City Manager Flora said, the permit's just sitting there waiting to be issued. So as soon as they pick a contractor. All we have to do is click a button and then they'll have their permit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any commissioners have anything to report?
Nothing here?
Nothing?
You know, you're talking about this PC meeting on the 23rd. I had a pre-scheduled thing that I have to do for Special Olympics. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be here or not. Just to let everybody know.
Thank you. Okay. All right. If any future agenda items any commissioner would like to add? No, all right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone who took the time to attend this meeting and for submitting their comments. And to those who are watching on Zoom and YouTube, there being no further business of the commission, we are now adjourned at 7:10 on Tuesday, July 9th, 2024.
I'd like to thank whoever gave me this mouse for this little computer.